G'day everyone and welcome to another Catch Up with Kiralee. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kiralee and on this channel we talk about all things cosplay, costuming and sewing related. And today I wanted to give you a sneak peek of my new Nifty cosplay from Hazbin Hotel. So this design is by Sunset Dragon, and if you have been around for a while then you know I am obsessed with Sunset Dragon designs. This will be my fourth Sunset Dragon cosplay. I love her designs, I love her artwork, and I love Nifty from Hazbin Hotel. So when she said she was gonna make Nifty, I was like, I trust you. I am 100%, no matter what it looks like, I'm gonna do it. And lucky for me, she did two versions, which is now available on her Patreon. It hasn't been made public yet at the time of recording this. And one of them, it had ruffles. It had all different bits and pieces that I was like, that is me. So I was like, well, yep, nope, I'm absolutely doing that. But it was funny because before she had even released the images on Patreon, I'd already ordered the wig because I was like, well, I trust you, we're gonna do this. So the design was released on Patreon, which I am obviously a patron of Sunset Dragon because, once again, obsessed. So as soon as I saw it, I was just like, okay, let's make this thing. And I made the mock-up probably quicker than I have made most of my mock-ups before, and that's for a few different bits and pieces. So the very first thing that I will say is that this mock-up came together quite quickly because it has elements that I've made before a couple of times. Now there are certain elements that I've never done before, and we'll get to that, or if I have done them, it's been quite some time since I've done it. But also, the thing is, people say to me, because I put up the post on Instagram last night, Kiralee, you're so fast at making mock-ups. No. You know, that's not a sign that I love doing mock-ups. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I hate doing mock-ups. I do them so quickly so that I can get past them, so I can work with the real fabric and make it pretty. But, I hate mock-ups. So if you too hate mock-ups, make sure in the comments you go, hate mock-ups as well, rock on. So I am going to take you through my mock-up, give you a little bit of sneak peek of the design, of what I'm gonna do with it. There are a few elements that I haven't mocked up just yet, but they are mostly accessories, so I will be mocking them up as I'm going along. They're not so integral to the fitting of the costume. And that's generally how I do my mock-ups, is I will do a mock-up of all the main pieces, especially that which is going to be directly fitted to my body. And then anything else like bows, gloves, that sort of thing, it's kind of done a little bit later. I don't generally do them. Sometimes I don't even do a mock-up. I just go, yep, that's roughly that size for a bow. I've made enough bows to know, yep, that's pretty much how much I'm gonna need. So I usually go that way. So, you know, I usually just wing it. So you'll also notice that this mannequin has a lot of the same coloring on it. And trust me, Nifty is not this color, right? She is mostly reds. There's reds, blacks, and some golds, and a little bit of white. So I do all of the mock-ups, all of my mock-ups now with calico. And the reason for that is that I can get a roll from Spotlight quite cheap with a voucher. I think that they are about $80 to $100 for a full roll, and then if I have a voucher, usually it's like buy $100, $120 and get $40 off or something like that. I wait till I get that voucher and then I buy a roll, and a roll will generally last me between 3 and 4 cosplays, guessing, depending on how big they are. And yes, so I use calico, and I used unbleached calico because of the fact that I can draw all over it. And as we go through, you'll see my little notes. So there are little notes that I make when I know that I need to add certain bits, or you know, little notes to remind myself, like I need to add seam allowance here, that sort of thing. And then I can write all over it as well. So before I unpick everything, I will actually go through and write which pieces are what and also what colors they are, because that's going to be easy for me when I'm cutting out the fabric so that I'm not cutting it out of the wrong fabric. However, if you are on a real budget and you don't have access to calico, I used to use poplin or bed sheets. So, you know, whatever is going to be the cheapest option for you, just make sure that if you are going to be using a stretchy fabric, that you use a stretchy fabric for your mock-up. So whenever I do stretchy fabrics, I will generally go to my stash and find a like material, usually in a light color so I can still write all over it, and use that for those parts. But because Nifty is all non-stretch fabrics, I could just use all calico. The only thing that I have to be aware of is the sleeve is going to be a lot lighter than calico because that's going to be made out of organza. All right, let's go through this costume together, shall we? So with my cosplays, I actually start from the bottom up, and this goes for my mock-ups as well. So I started off with this skirt. Now this skirt is a high-low skirt and comes up to about mid-thigh at the front and goes down to almost my ankles at the back. And that's because when I first measured it all out, you can see where it first ended up there. And that was because I measured it to where it looked like it finished on the actual reference image. But then when I put it all on, I realized that it just looked too short in the back and wasn't giving the full dimension. And that's because when, you know, artists are drawing people, and look, Sunset Dragon does an amazing job at getting proportions pretty much on par with human figures. The legs are generally a lot longer than my own legs because I'm short, I'm chibi, I'm a hobbit. And so I decided to get this look. I didn't want to extend the front any higher than what it is. So I extended the back and actually graduated out more. I did one addition and then I decided that wasn't long enough. So I did another addition to get this shape. And this shape I'm very happy with. And when it's being worn, it looks like a very lovely gradual kind of high-low situation, even though it actually goes very dramatically long at the back when it's laid out. This is a double circle skirt, front and back, and I always use the Mood Circle Skirt calculator. It's free, it's easy to use, and it's never, ever done me wrong. So after the skirt, I then went on to the next bit, which is the blouse. So the blouse is currently tucked into the corset and like the aprons on top of the skirt there. I'm actually going to quickly remove the corset and the apron so we can have a closer look at the blouse. Now I've just removed the corset and the apron. You can see that the side seams actually need to be taken in a fair bit, so I need to rework that as well when I'm doing the skirt. Now, back onto the blouse, like I said I was going to. So this blouse is very interesting, and this is the one part of the cosplay that really I hadn't done this shaping before. And I initially started with a pattern that was a dart in the front and the back, and had like this weird neck collar thing that like came to like here and was quite square. It was a good base to start off with, but a lot of things had to change with it. So the first thing that I know as an individual, darts just do not work with my body shape. It just doesn't work. I have to have some kind of seaming. I have to, you know, a princess seam is generally the way that I go because it's so much more flattering on my body. And to be honest, I've not done the princess seam in the back. I've done just a flat back sort of situation here. You can see. And it's not sitting perfectly, even though I did a bit of trial and error and actually took in some of the back because it was gaping a whole lot here because I've got a little bit of a sway back. So I had to shorten the back a fair bit and bring that in. But it's just, Yeah, I probably should have done some sort of princess seam in the back. I might still do that, but realistically, the back is going to be covered by the corset. So I don't think it's going to be worth it, to be honest, because most of it is going to be covered. So if it doesn't fit perfectly through here, that's okay. The corset's over the top of it. The front, I just knew that I wanted to sit really nicely. And so I actually, with the darts that were here, I kind of reworked them so that they would become seams that would then go into the bib. So I haven't done a bib like this before. And it was interesting. It was interesting. I essentially had to reshape the entire bodice. The neckline was really good from the pattern that I used, so I wanted to keep that, and it was about the right height. It's going to have a 1 centimeter seam rather than 1.5, and that will give me a good kind of height on the neck when I'm wearing it. But the bib actually goes around to the back of the collar, which was very interesting. I've never done something like that. So patterning that was quite interesting. And then I obviously will have this ruffle over, like in between the white and the red that is here. And I think that's really cool. I like that. I like that a lot. One of the notes that I have made, because down here is some ribbon and some buttons that come down, but we've got these cool little like knife pleats, but these did not end up the way that I wanted them. So they actually need to be about twice the width of these, and there's too much width between the two of these, and that was a miscalculation on my behalf. And so I've made myself some little notes. So the first line of sewing needs to be 3 centimeters from the center, because that's how much space I need for the buttons and the ribbon. And then these need to be 1 centimeter in terms of the flaps. So that needs to go to there, line up with that, and then that needs to come out here. And then that will be the right, I believe that that's going to be the right kind of balance as per the reference image. This just looks too small in my opinion. Now let's go on to the sleeves. So the sleeves are going to be organza. So this is a lot heavier than what the sleeve is going to be. And I'm going to do the sleeve in 2 lots of organza. So I've got a lining organza and an outer organza. And the reason for that is because I want to be able to do some decoration on the top layer that doesn't see through all the way to the bottom layer. And also I want the bottom layer to give it a little bit more structure. So one of the issues with organza is that obviously if you use anything to interface it, and when you have a sleeve this big, you really do need something to interface it. If you use regular interfacing, you're going to see it because it's not clear. So with organza, you have to essentially use organza to give it that structure. So you use organza for its structure self. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, chiffon and organza, you need to use organza to help give it that definition. And then on the bottom of it, we have this sleeve. So this sleeve took me, I think, 2 goes to kind of get right. And I've even made some more notes because I feel like it's a little bit short between here and the bottom here. So I'm gonna give it a bit more of a scoop out so that there's a little bit more of a dramatic flair, if you will. But I didn't feel like mocking it up again, and I know, having done a number of bows with waterfall pleats and done a sleeve before with waterfall pleats, which was my Magic Up, I knew really that what I needed to do there to make it work. And the sleeves match the skirt, which is a lot of fun. I love the fact that we've got ruffles on the bodice and on the apron, which is going to come back very shortly, but also that the sleeves and the skirt matches. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. The only other thing that I'm going to need to do is I am going to need to put some elastic into this join here somehow and make it, you know, try to make it as invisible as possible. But it is organza, so you are going to see it. I'm going to play around with thin black elastic, whether it's going to be the thin, like, I don't know, like 10 millimeter or less kind of cord elastic, or if I'm going to use some braided elastic that's very thin. I'll need to play around with that and see what's structurally going to work the best to help, you know, hold up this puff, but also to hold the weight of these sleeves. Because although it's going to be organza, double layered, there's actually a lot of fabric to these bottom of their sleeves. When you're doing mock-ups, these are the things we think about. Okay, let's re-add the apron. So here is the apron, and this apron is actually going to be sewn to the skirt. So before I finish doing the binding at the top of the skirt for the closure and, you know, to make it all pretty, I will add the apron to it. And that way it's not moving around, it's less bulk, because, you know, your waist is what you're wanting the like narrowest part of your body to be, so you don't want to add more bulk to that particular area. So yes, I'm just going to be including that within the skirt itself. And this was made using, once again, the Mood Circle Skirt Calculator. I did it as a half circle skirt, I think, and then essentially I just kind of pinned and then sewed these little pleats in and just adjusted the waistline. It was really just to help me get the shape of the waist, and then I figured out the curve of the apron and how wide the ruffle needed to be. Very, very simple. Aprons are one of the easiest things to create. And lastly, the corset. So this corset pattern was based off my Toff pattern, and just knowing how that fits and how this fits on me, I believe that I pretty much got it where the seams need to be. So the only thing that I need to do is raise this center point up by 1.5 centimeters and then round that down, because it's just a little bit too short. It needs to be a little bit higher up. But this has a 1 centimeter seam allowance, just like the collar of the bodice, but everything else is a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. I will be boning this, and I will be doing the boning on the lining, or rather the interfacing layer, and then there'll be the lining layer, and then there will be this outer layer, which will have all of the fancy things because it's got a fancy detailing on the side panels. And I plan on actually doing this one as a lace up at the back. Also at the back of the bodice, I have got this little extra flap that I'm going to be able to sew over and press stud down, just so that way it's a nice way to close the collar. But yes, the corset is pretty much very similar to the corset that I made for Toff and also for the Candy Cane outfit by Sunset Dragon that I did at Christmas. So that's where the inspiration has come from with this. So there you go, there is my sneak peek and a little bit of my process that I have when I'm creating mock-ups. And yes, please remember, I hate this part. I hate it. That's why I actually don't film me doing the mock-ups, because generally I hate the entire process. But it is a necessary evil to make sure that I'm going to be happy with the end result, because there is nothing worse than cutting into your real fabric and realizing, like I did with the skirt, that you didn't cut it wide enough. So don't do what I have done in the past. So before I finish today, I would like to thank my amazing patrons who have been supporting me as I cry into my Instagram close friend story, which is what they see, and like encouraging me as I've been doing this mock-up, because it was literally a crying game at some points. So thank you to my amazing patrons, especially the $10 a month tier patrons, who are Justine Ghosty, Fangirl X, Sam M, Monica, Lulu Rush Cosplay, Sotaku, Miss Twisted, Mithril Teacup, Barbara Lee, and Trash Guardian Cosplay. And thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you will join me on this nifty adventure. I'll see you all in the next one.